No survivors. Blackwater PMCs fight for their lives. Deadly ambush. The Blackwater-Fallujah ambush of 2004 stands out as one of the most poignant and contentious events of the Iraq War. In today's video, we delve into the harrowing details of this ambush, exploring the background, the events that unfolded, and the ambush that followed. This ambush occurred amidst the broader context of the Iraq War, and the involvement of private military companies sheds light on the complexities and challenges faced in modern warfare. In the wake of the September 11, 2001 attacks, the United States launched a multifaceted war on terror. This campaign included the invasion of Iraq in 2003, which aimed to eliminate perceived threats and bring stability to the region. However, the reality on the ground proved far more complex and challenging than anticipated. The U.S. military faced numerous obstacles in its efforts to secure Iraq and combat insurgent groups. The country was deeply divided along sectarian lines, with long-standing tensions exacerbated by the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime. Additionally, the lack of effective governance and infrastructure created fertile grounds for insurgent activity to flourish. To bolster its efforts in Iraq, the U.S. government turned to private military companies, or PMCs, like Blackwater. These companies were contracted to provide a range of services, including security, logistics, and training. Blackwater, in particular, gained notoriety for its aggressive tactics and willingness to operate in high-risk environments. However, the use of PMCs also raised concerns about accountability and oversight. Unlike regular military forces, PMCs operated with the highest degree of autonomy and were not subject to the same regulations and standards. This lack of oversight would prove to have dire consequences in the events that unfolded in Fallujah in 2004. As the insurgency in Iraq intensified, particularly in cities like Fallujah, the U.S. military found itself increasingly bogged down in a protracted and bloody conflict. Despite initial optimism, it became clear that defeating the insurgency would require a significant escalation of force and resources. At the center of the Fallujah ambush were four Blackwater contractors: Scott Helvenston, Jerry Zavko, Wesley Bartolona, and Michael Teague. Each of these men brought a wealth of military experience to their roles, having served in various capacities in conflict zones around the world. Scott Helvenston, a former Navy SEAL, had participated in numerous missions, including deployments in Somalia and Kosovo. He was also known for his work as a stuntman in Hollywood, appearing in films such as G.I. Jane and The Rock. Jerry Zavko, a former Army Ranger, had served in the Gulf War and had extensive experience as a private contractor with Blackwater. Wesley Bartolona, another former Army Ranger, was valued for his calm demeanor and ability to handle high-pressure situations. Michael Teague, a former U.S. Army Special Forces soldier, had served in Bosnia and Afghanistan before joining Blackwater. Together, these men formed a skilled and experienced team, but they were ill-prepared for the dangers that awaited them in Fallujah. Despite their training and expertise, the contractors were sent into a volatile and hostile environment without adequate support or protection. Their tragic fate would serve as a stark reminder of the risks faced by those operating in war zones, particularly when proper precautions are not taken. March 31st, 2004 dawned like any other day in war-torn Fallujah. A convoy of vehicles, including two flatbed trucks and two armored SUVs, set out on a routine mission to deliver food supplies to a nearby U.S. military base. Escorting the convoy were the four Blackwater contractors, tasked with providing security in what was known to be a dangerous area. As the convoy made its way through the city streets, it soon became apparent that they were walking into a trap. Insurgents, armed with rifles, rocket-propelled grenades or RPGs, and other weapons, had set up roadblocks and barricades along the convoy's route. Without warning, they launched a coordinated attack on the unsuspecting convoy, targeting the rear vehicles first. The chaos and confusion of the ambush were overwhelming. Bullets rained down on the convoy from all sides, shattering windows and piercing metal. In the midst of the onslaught, Scott Helvenston and Michael Teague were struck down, their lives snuffed out in an instant. Despite their best efforts to fight back and escape, the contractors were outnumbered and outgunned. In the front vehicle, Jerry Zavko and Wesley Bartolona fought desperately to evade the attackers and reach safety. With bullets whizzing past and explosions rocking the road, they pushed forward, driven by sheer instinct and survival instinct. But their efforts were in vain. Trapped in a deadly game of cat and mouse, they too fell victim to the merciless onslaught. As the smoke cleared and the dust settled, the full extent of the carnage became apparent. The bodies of the contractors lay strewn across the road, their lives cut short in a senseless act of violence. But the horror was far from over, as the insurgents descended upon the convoy, looting the vehicles and desecrating the bodies of the fallen. The Fallujah ambush would go down in history as one of the darkest chapters of the Iraq War, a stark reminder of the brutality and chaos that defined the conflict. For the families of the fallen, the pain and anguish of their loss would be compounded by the knowledge that their loved ones had been sent into harm's way, ill-equipped and unprepared. In the wake of the Fallujah ambush, the U.S. military launched a massive response, initiating what would become known as the First Battle of Fallujah. The operation, which began on April 4, 2004, involved tens of thousands of troops and was one of the largest military operations of the war. The battle was intense and brutal, with heavy fighting taking place in the streets and buildings of the city. The U.S. military employed a range of tactics and firepower in an attempt to dislodge the insurgents, including artillery, airstrikes, and tanks. The fighting resulted in significant casualties on both sides, with hundreds of insurgents and dozens of U.S. troops losing their lives. For the families of the Blackwater contractors, the aftermath of the ambush was a time of grief and heartache. The loss of their loved ones under such tragic circumstances was a wound that would never fully heal. But amidst the pain and sorrow, there was also anger and frustration at the perceived failures of those responsible for their safety and well-being. Questions were raised about the lack of proper equipment and support provided to the contractors, as well as the role of corrupt Iraqi forces in luring the convoy into the ambush. Allegations of negligence and betrayal would cast a dark shadow over the events that unfolded that fateful day in Fallujah, leaving the family searching for answers and justice. In the years that followed, legal proceedings would be initiated against Blackwater, with the families of the fallen seeking accountability for their loss. But the road to justice would prove long and arduous, as the company denied any wrongdoing and cited immunity from lawsuits under the doctrine of sovereign immunity. The Fallujah ambush served as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those who are sent into harm's way in conflict zones. It highlighted the importance of proper training, equipment, and support for individuals tasked with providing security in such environments. But perhaps most importantly, it underscored the human cost of war and the sacrifices made by those who served their country. In the wake of the Fallujah ambush, the families of the Blackwater contractors faced an arduous journey through the legal system, grappling with grief and seeking accountability for their loved one's death. In 2005, the family of Scott Helvenston took a stand, filing a lawsuit against Blackwater for wrongful death. Their allegations pointed to the company's failure to provide adequate security, leaving the contractors vulnerable in a hostile environment. Blackwater, however, fiercely contested the lawsuit, vehemently denying any negligence and invoking sovereign immunity to shield itself from legal repercussions. This legal battle became a protracted ordeal for the grieving families, marked by frustration and disappointment as they encountered resistance from a powerful adversary. Despite the uphill battle, the families remained resolute in their pursuit of justice, refusing to relent in the face of adversity. Their struggle served as a potent symbol of the need for accountability and transparency within the private military contracting industry. As the legal proceedings dragged on, the families continued to mourn their profound loss, their grief compounded by the knowledge of betrayal by those entrusted with their loved one's safety. Yet amidst the anguish, there remained a glimmer of hope, a belief that their fight would honor the memory of the fallen and advocate for the protection of all those who serve in the line of duty. Join the conversation on accountability and transparency in warfare. Together, we can shape a safer future for all.